guys, I had the chance to talk with the winners of Springfest California, and they are the Joy Boys. They won standard, and here they are. These handsome blokes. They look very, very happy, even though you can't see the smile. Just look at the eyes, the eyebrows, right? The eyebrows, okay? And these gold medals. These gold medals look very, very nice too. So yeah, they did very well at Springfest California. They came first. And not only, like, you might think standard. Okay, standard is a pretty figured out format, right? But California kind of showed maybe that's not the case. There's some weird picks that popped up. And you're like, wow, that's crazy. I thought this format was totally figured out. But also just when talking to these players, right? And the mindset going into how they prepared for the tournament. And also how they approached certain matchups. That was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. If you want to learn knowledge, this is where the knowledge is. Just listen on, right? Listen on, and this can help you prep for your Springfests coming up too. So let's kind of get started. So we have the three players here. We've got Kevin Takagi. He was playing Bastion, and you look at his Bastion list and you go, wow, this Bastion list is so bling. It is so high rarity. But it's also a very, very standard list. Because you know why? Why it's so standard? Because it just works. It is a good list. It's been working before, it's been working now, it's probably going to work in the future, but it's probably going to work better now that he has a prize card, Martinoa, right? It's pretty good, right? That's pretty good. But yeah, no, this list is, I think we've seen this list floating around in the everywhere because it is a good list. It just works, it wins games. Why change something that's good, right? So Kevin Takagi with Bastion, good stuff. Then we got Matt Kimura here with Magnolia. Guess what? Magnolia is also another deck that works. If you go to a team tournament, right, I think Magnolia is probably one of the bigger picks. This is running the Zorgnolia engine, just with the Force Spiritual. Force Spiritual is great, right? Force Spiritual is great, but look, he's also running some, you know, the most important stuff, basically, is the M picks, the inlet poles, but also running a high front count, right? Normally, we might see more draws, we might see more, just like a rainbow spread, a nice even rainbow spread, but Mac went with 6 fronts, right? 6 fronts. That's quite interesting. That's quite interesting. Again, the rest of the deck can be whatever you want it to be, as long as you put in the Inlet Pulse and the Impix. You went Panthera. I know some people have been talking about, you know, we don't really need Panthera, but if you kind of listen to what he describes about Magnolia, you can see why it's gone into the deck, right? Oh yeah, and also the perfect guards are kind of needed. And just again, you look at the grade 3 Magnolias. There's only one of them in the Ride deck because this deck is very, very consistent in getting what you need. You'll always have a Magnolia, right, with spiritual body condensation, just getting it. So very, very nice. And then lastly, we have Gabriel Nguyen with the prison deck. And this is a much more control-focused prison list, right? You have the normal stuff, you know, you got the Macarites, yeah. But then you have 3 Rouges only to make space for some other cards. You've got the Resource Generator, Countercharger, Soul Charger. You got Melty Heart, great defensive order. Love that order. But also you have the back row removal, right? Back row removal. So this is much more focused for a control game, a grind game. But you will see why. You will see why, right? Because just, again, it's a lot to do with the playstyle versus just, you know, this is the list. It's autopilot from there. It's not really autopilot, right? It's not totally autopilot. So let's go. Just some extra cool stuff. Here are some prize cards, right? Sato looking good. Elder Breath, whew, very nice. And then lastly, these are the basically the prize cards. They show the over triggers they chose. Very nice, right? You know, we've got the Dark States one, Brancate one, and Amatino. I think Amatino is going to be one of the most picked, right? I feel like Brancate, Martinoa, I think a lot of people are going to pick that, right? A lot of people are going to pick that. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So let's kind of start off with how they really got into this composition. So first off, Kevin, Bastion, day 1 Bastion player, but he was kind of on the fence for playing Magnolia, right? Because, you know, guess what? Magnolia is a good deck. Mac, right? Mac was going to play Baron Magnus. But then when, you know, Kevin decided to play Bastion, guess what? Magnolia is the way. And then Gabe is a Bruce play. He told me he was a Bruce play. He's actually also new to just playing Vanguard in general. He started playing an Overdress in set 2, right? Normally a lot of people start Overdress in set 1, but he actually started a bit late, right? And he originally played Bruce, and he said he fully DSR'd the deck out, right? So very high rarity Bruce, but ever since set 4 dropped, He was testing different builds, but eventually was like, it just didn't feel right. It just didn't feel like the same deck. So that's kind of the short. Let's put him back to the Gabe deck here. So he was really on the fence in the end of playing, do I play Gravidia or Prison? You know, Gravidia has been really rising in popularity in the West, and in general everywhere after set 4. But you know, Prison is still quite decent, right? You only had two and a half weeks to really play test both, or just, you know, maybe I should just comfort pick the Bruce, but he ended up going Prison. Yeah, you can hard grind the last 2.5 weeks, and he found the deck that he wanted, and it was Prison. So one of the things that he did point out and why he didn't go with Bruce is that itself is really bad, even in like a Western format. You know, if it gets controlled, right? If you damage deny it, then a lot of things just don't really happen. So he's told me, like, in his final game and in his top 4 game, when he played like the Bruce, they couldn't even activate grade 4 Bruce because he played like a very hard damage deny game. And you know, Prison is a deck that allows you to play this hard damage deny game because if you guys know V, right, it can get to a situation where it can catch up. Its front row gets crits, and you can just go from like low damage to dead, right? So you can grind. His game plan is like grinding out his opponent, exhausting their resources, and then once they're out of resources, they can't guard these columns that swing with like heaps and heaps of damage. So that's actually very, very smart. That is actually premium levels of thinking, if you think about it. This hard damage deny kind of style. So yeah, he could, when he played these Bruce decks, he just controlled them super hard, and they couldn't really do the restand because, again, you know, grade 3 Bruce, no counterblast needed to restand. Grade 4 Bruce, though, which everyone is kind of jumping on, dang, we need that extra counterblast to do things. Same thing with Gravidia as well. You know, Gravidia, pretty cool, very aggressive, but, you know, it does need counterblast to use Meteors. If you don't have counterblast, you can't use Meteors. That's the kind of thing. So, you know, you can control them, slow the game down, outpace them, grind a bigger hand, and then eventually they just run out and they kind of just they just can't guard you and you win. Right, pretty cool. So one of the harder matchups he said was actually Barrow Magnus, which, you know, everyone kind of knows Barrow Magnus is pretty scary. But if we did look at the top cut as well, there wasn't really that many Barrow, which is quite surprising. But same idea, right? Same idea. You just outpace them, grind them out. They actually are on a clock themselves as Barrow because they want to hit 15 ASAP. If they don't hit 15 ASAP, then you get a lot of space to wiggle around with. If they do, then they're soul charging very, very hard. And then eventually they have to put back cards into their deck to not deck out, right, with the grade 2. But then the drive checks become very, very weak, right, if you think about it. If they're decompressing their deck that hard, then, you know, where are the triggers? It's not that many triggers. Then it becomes easier to guard them, and that's pretty cool, right? That just kind of makes the game much more easier in a way. So pretty cool. Another thing with, like, against like Gravidia, if you control them, or if you, just in general any deck, right? If you control their damage, they don't have any resources to play key cards, then you can very easily determine what their power lines are going to be. Because at best, right, with no CB, basically means no effects or no plussing or anything like that. Then it's pretty much just Persona Ride, front row like plus 10k. It can be a bit harder to like push more power, but yeah, that's basically the gist of that idea. And he also mentioned that he had a lot of cards in Prison. I think at one point, the judge told him he had like, he was the highest, he hit the record basically for the amount of cards in Prison, which was apparently 19 cards against a Bastion player. Now that's like pretty much the entire deck, right? But 19 cards in Prison? I don't know how you're gonna guard that. I think that's actually pretty insane. It's pretty insane when you think about it. Mac was also talking about his Barrow. He's actually a Barrow player, right? And why he didn't really go with Barrow. He went with Magnolia instead. Because he was testing a lot of Barrow, and it was that thing where if I don't hit 15 soul, I just feel bad. I get outpaced, right? And it just didn't feel right. So like everyone, if you play Barrow, you know the woes, right? Did I draw Pandemonium? I didn't. Hitting 15 is gonna be a bit hard. Yeah, he said it felt a little bit too inconsistent with the amount of like just basically for the tournament in general. So when he tried Magnolia, he's like, wow, Magnolia, this is so good. It's so consistent. He just wanted consistency with his deck, and I can see why. Like now, you put something like Panther that just gets bodies on the board. Inlet Pulse, you know, draws cards. The deck it's like an engine that like self-replicates, and it's just that simple. You just kind of win, right? Just the winning engine. And then yeah, like I said before, Kevin, he was debating on whether to go Bastion or Magnolia. He actually was also considering Hexa at some point, but hey. So if you want to play Bastion, let's just go with Bastion, right? He actually, for his record, he played against out of the 10 matches he played against 4 Magnolia players, and he beat 3 of them. So that's pretty good, right? When you play Bastion and you can snipe off the Magnolias, that's exactly what the deck is built for, right? Just sometimes getting the high roll and just winning, right? That's just it. They also mentioned they got a bit lucky with the player order as well. Gabe said he got a lot of mirror matches as player C. So, prison mirror match. You might say it might be kind of lame. It might be kind of boring. But I think when one person enters that with a better game plan than the others, right? Especially like for standard, where like your game plan, a lot of players just don't really develop that game plan. Then you're already kind of one step ahead, and you'll like randomly catch people out, and that's how you're gonna get your wins, right? So pretty cool. And then Mac played a lot of Prison and Gravidia as well, which was pretty good because he has end pixes, and if he plays it correctly, he doesn't like get overextend, or he just puts inlets and so on. Hey, guess what? End pixes save me, right? That kind of helps with the matchup quite a lot, simply because MPIC stops your stuff from dying. So overall, that was basically what we had a chat about. It was very, very interesting. I really liked talking to Gabe and just the team in general on like how they approached like building this, because that's the interesting stuff, right? Anyone can throw together a deck on Decklog or look at a deck and go, yeah, this is the one for me, right? But the game plan themselves and how they approached playing the games, that is much more insightful. That is something that I like to listen to. And also, just throwing this out there, a lot of these players, like Mac was also relatively new to the game too. Gabe was very, very new to the game. So yeah, you don't have to be like a super veteran to be able to like win tournaments, right? You just have to kind of know what you're doing. Do the hard yards, right? Don't skip on hard yards. Don't skip on testing. Don't skip on training. And you can get together with a bit of luck, of course, right? You can get a win, right? Everyone needs some luck. And they got the luck they needed too as well. So skill plus luck equals win. That's it, right? That's it. So big shout outs to Kevin. Or I should call them by the Australian version of the names, right? Kev, Mac, and Gabs or Gabe, right? Yeah, good job on getting the win at Cali. And I will read One Piece at some time. I will read that. Okay, I'll somehow catch up to the 1,000 chapters it has out. It'll be a trek, but hey, it's a challenge. So thanks for sharing everything. And again, if you guys got anything to share, anything cool, let me know. Hit me up on Discord, and we can kind of talk about how you went and all the cool stuff that went through. So hope you guys had fun listening to this too. And maybe it helps you out in the future. Maybe it helps develop your brain. It's all about that knowledge, right? It's all about the knowledge. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'll see you guys in the next video. All right? Bye.